I arranged the dinner rolls in their basket for the third time, trying to keep my hands busy while my sister Emma held court at the head of the table. She'd insisted on hosting Thanksgiving this year at her new house in the suburbs, a 4-bedroom colonial that she reminded everyone had cost $750,000. And of course, the kitchen renovation alone was $90,000, Emma was saying to Aunt Linda, gesturing at the marble countertops. But when you're a senior marketing director at Peterson & Associates, you can afford to invest in quality. I set the basket down and returned to the kitchen for the green beans. Through the doorway, I could see the entire family gathered in the dining room. Mom and Dad sat on either side of Emma, both beaming with pride. My brother Marcus was there with his wife, Jennifer, and Uncle Tom had driven in from Connecticut with Aunt Linda and their 2 kids. "Maya, honey, can you bring the gravy boat too?" Mom called out. "Sure, Mom." I found the gravy boat in the cabinet where Emma had directed me earlier. Everything in her kitchen had a specific place, and she'd made sure to show me where the help items were stored, as she'd put it. Never mind that I'd offered to help cook because I'd arrived early, or that I'd spent the last 2 hours prepping side dishes while Emma got ready upstairs. When I returned to the dining room, Emma was showing Aunt Linda something on her phone. "This was our corporate retreat in Aspen last month. That's our CEO, Richard Chin. He personally invited me to join the executive strategy team." "That's wonderful, Emma," Aunt Linda said. "You've done so well for yourself." "Well, someone in this family had to be ambitious," Emma said, her eyes flicking toward me as I sat down the gravy boat. I took my seat at the far end of the table next to my teenage cousin Sophie, who was absorbed in her phone, the kids' end of the table even though I was 28 years old. Dad cleared his throat. "Before we eat, I want to say how grateful I am to have all my children here. Marcus doing great things in accounting. Emma absolutely killing it in the corporate world." He paused and I could feel what was coming. "And Maya working hard at what was it again, honey?" "The logistics center." "A warehouse," Emma supplied helpfully. "Maya works at a warehouse." "I work in supply chain operations," I said quietly. "That's what I said. A warehouse." Emma smiled sweetly. "Nothing wrong with honest work. Maya, not everyone can be a corporate high-F flyer." Mom reached over and patted my hand. "Your father and I are just glad you're employed, sweetie. After you dropped out of college, we worried you'd never find your footing." I hadn't dropped out. I'd left Stanford after my sophomore year because I'd already secured $15 million in venture capital funding for the logistics software I'd been developing. But I'd never corrected the narrative my family had constructed. It had been easier at first to let them think what they wanted while I focused on building my company. That was 6 years ago. "So Maya," Uncle Tom said, clearly trying to be kind, "are there opportunities for advancement at your warehouse? The company is doing well." I said, "That's good. That's good. Steady work is important." He turned to Marcus. "Now, Marcus, tell me about this promotion you mentioned." As Marcus launched into a detailed description of his new role as senior accountant, I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. I ignored it. The phone buzzed again and again. Emma noticed. "Maya, if you need to check your phone, you can step away from the table. I know some workplaces require even warehouse workers to be on call during holidays." "I'm fine," I said. "No, really, go ahead. We understand that your job might need you." Emma's voice dripped with false sympathy. "It must be stressful working in a job with no stability." I pulled out my phone, more to stop Emma's commentary than because I wanted to check it. The screen was filled with notifications, text messages, emails, Twitter mentions, LinkedIn messages, all time-stamped within the last 3 minutes. "My PR director Sarah, it's live. Forbes just published. Phone is exploding. My CFO James Forbes article is up. This is incredible. Already 50K shares. My best friend from college. Emmy, you're on Forbes. Calling you now." And then I saw the headline that had been shared to my messages at least 20 times. Text quietest billionaire. How Maya Chin built a $4.2 billion empire. While her family thought she worked in a warehouse, my stomach dropped around the table. Other phones started buzzing. Sophie looked at her screen and her eyes went wide. Marcus frowned at his phone, then looked up at me with confusion. Aunt Linda gasped. "What is it?" Emma asked, annoyed at the disruption to her carefully planned dinner. Sophie turned her phone around, showing the table. "It's Maya. She's on Forbes." "What?" Emma laughed. "That's ridiculous." "Why it doesn't, Emma?" Dad's voice was strange. He was staring at his phone, his face pale. Thrill. There's a full interview, photos, everything. Mom grabbed Dad's phone. Her hand went to her mouth. The article had been scheduled to go live at 3:00 p.m. Eastern during Forbes' peak traffic window. I'd been dreading this moment for weeks. Ever since I'd finally agreed to do the interview for 6 years, I'd maintained almost complete anonymity. I used a holding company structure. I never did press. I let my executive team take credit publicly while I ran operations behind the scenes. I'd built Titan Logistics from my dorm room into the world's most valuable supply chain technology company. And almost no one knew I existed. But Forbes had been persistent. They'd wanted to do a feature on young billionaires, and they'd somehow tracked me down through SEC filings. My board had convinced me it was time to step out of the shadows, time to own my success publicly. I just hadn't expected to come. She was scrolling frantically on her own phone now. Maya, what is this? Some kind of joke? Let me see. Marcus leaned over to look at Dad's phone. He read aloud, Maya Chin, 28, is the founder and CEO of Titan Logistics, the supply chain technology company that revolutionized global shipping operations with a current valuation of $4.2 billion and Chin owning 65% of shares. She is officially the youngest self-made female billionaire in technology. The dining room was silent except for the sound of Marcus' voice and the continued buzzing of phones. It goes on. Marcus said Chin, who left Stanford University in her sophomore year to pursue her business full-time, has kept an extraordinarily low profile. While her company's software powers logistics for 90% of Fortune 500 companies, Chin herself has remained virtually unknown outside of tech investment circles. Emma snatched the phone from Dad's hands. She read silently, her face going through a series of expressions. Disbelief, shock, confusion, and finally, something that looked like anger. You've been lying to us, she said. I never lied, I replied calmly. I do work in supply chain operations. That's an accurate description of my job. But you said we thought. Mom was stammering. Maya, we thought you worked in a warehouse, like moving boxes. I never said that. You assumed it. You let us believe it. Emma's voice was rising now. All this time, you've been what? Laughing at us? Pretending to be poor while you're a billionaire. I wasn't pretending anything. I just didn't correct your assumptions. Uncle Tom was reading from his own phone now. It says here, you've donated over $300 million to educational charities. Maya, is this true? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Emma looked toward the front door, confused. I'm not expecting anyone. The doorbell rang again more insistently. I'll get it, Marcus said, standing up. We all heard the door open and then Marcus' surprised voice. Can I help you? We're looking for Maya Chin. A woman's voice, professional and urgent. We're from CBS Evening News. We understand she's here for Thanksgiving dinner. We'd like to request an interview. Emma's face went white. CBS News is at my house. Marcus returned to the dining room, followed by a woman in a professional pantsuit holding a microphone and a man with a camera. They say they need to speak with Maya. The reporter, whose face I recognized from television, smiled professionally. Miss Chin, I'm Rebecca Walsh from CBS Evening News. We've been trying to reach you since the Forbes article went live 20 minutes ago. Your PR team gave us this address. Would you be willing to do a brief interview for our evening broadcast? Every face at the table turned to me. How did you know I was here? I asked. Your company's PR director, Sarah Martinez, provided the information. She said you'd want to control the narrative. Rebecca Walsh glanced around the table. We can do this outside if you'd prefer privacy. My phone rang. Excuse me, I said, standing up. I walked into Emma's pristine living room and answered. Sarah, Maya, I'm so sorry. I had to give them the address. There are 17 news organizations trying to find you. ABC, NBC, CNN, Bloomberg, The Wall Street Journal. Everyone, the article is viral. It's the top trending story on Twitter. We're getting interview requests from Good Morning America, 60 Minutes, The Tonight Show. This is massive. I could hear the chaos in the background of her call. Phones ringing, people talking over each other. How massive? The Forbes article has been shared 400,000 times in 20 minutes. Your company's stock in the private markets has already jumped 30%. Maya, people are calling you the next tech legend. They're comparing you to Steve Jobs and Elon Musk for the secrecy angle. I closed my eyes. This was exactly what I'd been afraid of. What do you need me to do? I asked. CBS is there now. Do the interview. 5 minutes sound bites only. We need you to look confident and in control. Then I'll send a car to take you to our Manhattan office. We've set up a proper studio for a longer Forbes video interview. After that, you're scheduled for Bloomberg at 6, and we have CNN at 8. Sarah, it's Thanksgiving. I know. I'm sorry. But this is happening whether we control it or not. Better to get ahead of it. I looked back toward the dining room where I could see my family still sitting in stunned silence around the table and Rebecca Walsh waiting patiently with her cameraman. Hey, I said in the car. I'll do CBS now. I walked back to the dining room. Miss Walsh, I can give you 5 minutes. Perfect. Can we do this in front of the house? Better lighting. As I moved toward the front door, Emma finally found her voice. Wait. Just wait. Maya. You can't just there's dinner. You can't leave. I have interviews scheduled. I said interviews? You're just going to abandon Thanksgiving because you have interviews. I turned to face my sister. She looked smaller somehow, standing in her expensive kitchen in her designer dress, realizing that everything she just spent hours bragging about meant nothing compared to what I'd built. Emma, I have CBS News, Bloomberg, and CNN waiting for me in Manhattan. I have Good Morning America requesting a studio appearance tomorrow. I have the Wall Street Journal asking for an exclusive. Yes, I'm going to do the interviews. Mom stood up. Honey, we had no idea. You never told us. You never asked, I said simply. You assumed I'd failed and I let you think that because it was easier than explaining. Dad was still staring at his phone. $4 billion. Maya, how is this possible? I built a company. I worked hard. I made good decisions the same way anyone builds wealth. But you dropped out of college. I left Stanford because I had $15 million in venture capital funding in a product that needed to get to market. Staying in school would have meant giving up the opportunity. Marcus was reading more from his phone. It says you started coding when you were 12. That you taught yourself machine learning algorithms. Maya, we had no idea you were into any of that. You never noticed. I said. I was teaching myself Python in my bedroom while you were all downstairs watching TV. I was building apps while you were at football practice. I was working on my business plan while you were at prom. None of you ever asked what I was doing. The cameraman from CBS was setting up his equipment in the foyer. Rebecca Walsh was checking her microphone. We're ready, Miss Chin, she said. I started toward the door. Please. Mom's voice cracked. Don't leave like this. Stay for dinner. We can talk about all of this. I paused at the threshold. I've spent 6 years sitting at the kids' end of the table, listening to everyone else's accomplishments, never saying anything about mine. I think I'm done with that now. We didn't know, Emma whispered. You didn't want to know, I corrected. There's a difference. I stepped outside into the cold November air. Rebecca Walsh positioned me on Emma's front lawn with the colonial house visible in the background. The cameraman adjusted his equipment. We're live in 30 seconds, Rebecca said. He turned to me. Miss Chen, I'm going to ask you some basic questions about the Forbes article and your company. Just relax and be yourself. Through the front window, I could see my family gathering to watch. Emma's face was pressed against the glass. In 3, 2, 1, the cameraman pointed at Rebecca. This is Rebecca Walsh reporting live from suburban Connecticut, where we've just caught up with Maya Chin, the subject of today's explosive Forbes article about the tech industry's quietest billionaire. Miss Chin, you've managed to build a $4 billion company while maintaining almost complete anonymity. Why the secrecy? I prefer to let my work speak for itself, I said. Titan Logistics is about solving problems in global supply chain management. The focus should be on the technology and the value we provide to clients, not on me personally. But Forbes is calling you the youngest self-made female billionaire in tech. That's a significant achievement. Why hide it? I wasn't hiding it. I just wasn't publicizing it. There's a difference between privacy and secrecy. Your family was gathered here for Thanksgiving dinner when the article went live. Is it true they didn't know about your success? I hesitated for just a moment. My family and I have different definitions of success. That's been a source of misunderstanding. The article mentions you left Stanford to pursue your business. That's a risky move. What gave you the confidence to do that? I had a product that solved a real problem. I had secured significant funding from investors who believed in the vision. At that point, Staying in school was the riskier move. Rebecca smiled. What would you say to young women who are considering entrepreneurship but are afraid to take the leap? Build something that matters. Solve a real problem and don't wait for permission or validation from anyone. If you know you're capable, prove it through your work. Strong words from one of tech's newest billionaire co's. Maya, thank you for your time. Thank you. The cameraman lowered his camera. We're clear. Rebecca Walsh pulled out a business card. Miss Chin, I'd love to do a longer feature piece. Your story is fascinating. Please have your PR team contact me. I will. A black car pulled up to the curb. My ride to Manhattan had arrived right on schedule. I walked toward the car and the driver opened the door for me. Before I got in, I looked back at Emma's house. The entire family was still standing at the window watching. Mom was crying. Dad looked shell-shocked. Emma's expression was unreadable. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. We're proud of you. We're sorry we didn't see it. Another text. This one from Emma. I don't understand why you let us treat you like that. I typed back. I wanted to see if any of you would value me for something other than status and money. You all failed. I got into the car. Manhattan office, Miss Chin, the driver asked. Yes, please. As we pulled away from the suburban street, my phone continued to explode with notifications, interview requests, congratulations from colleagues, messages from old friends I hadn't spoken to in years. The Forbes article had been shared over 1 million times now. My face was on the homepage of every major news website. Sarah called again. Maya, this is incredible. We're getting acquisition offers. HEA of Google, Amazon, Microsoft. They all want to talk. The valuation is already up to $5 billion based on private market trading. I'm not selling, I said. I know. But this is good leverage for our Series D funding round. We can probably raise at a $10 billion valuation now. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. I let it go to voicemail. Another call that voicemail. Emma. Voicemail. A text from Emma. Please call me back. We need to. I'm sorry. I stared at the message for a long moment, then put my phone on silent. The car merged onto the highway toward Manhattan. Through the window, I watched Connecticut suburbs give way to the approaching skyline of the city. Somewhere in one of those towers, my company occupied 14 floors. 700 employees working on technology that powered global commerce. A business I'd built from nothing while my family assumed I was packing boxes in a warehouse. My phone lit up with a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered it expecting another journalist. Wyatt Chin. A man's voice. Professional and warm. Yes, this is David Chin from the Stanford Alumni Association. We've just seen the Forbes article. On behalf of the university, I want to congratulate you on your extraordinary success. I almost laughed. Stanford calling to congratulate the dropout. Thank you, I said. We'd like to invite you to speak at this year's commencement ceremony. We think your story about leaving college to pursue entrepreneurship would be incredibly inspiring to our graduates. Would you be interested? Let me think about it. I said, of course. I'll have my assistant send over the details. And Maya, we always knew you were special. We're proud to count you as a Stanford affiliate, even if you didn't complete your degree. After I hung up, I received another call. This one from Uncle Tom. I answered. Maya, it's Uncle Tom. Honey, I just wanted to say your aunt and I had no idea. We're so proud of you. If you need anything, if there's any way we can help with your business, Linda's brother is a corporate attorney and I have connections in Uncle Tom. I appreciate that, but I have a full legal team and all the business connections I need. Right. Of course. Of course you do. I just wanted you to know we're here for you. Thank you. And Maya, what Emma said at dinner about you pretending she didn't mean it. He's just shocked. We all are. I understand. Will you come back for dessert? Maybe. Emma made 3 pies. I have interviews all evening. I won't be able to make it back. There was a long pause. Your mother is very upset. I'm sure she is. She wants to talk to you. To explain. There's nothing to explain, Uncle Tom. Everyone made their assumptions about my life, and I let them. Now they know the truth. That's all. Another pause. You're not angry, are you? No, I said honestly. I'm not angry. I'm just done accepting being treated as less than I am. When I hung up, Sarah texted me. You're trending #1 on Twitter worldwide. The number our house billionaire is everywhere. I looked at Twitter. He was right. Thousands of tweets about my story, about the tech industry's hidden billionaire, about the woman who let her family believe she'd failed while she built an empire. Some of the tweets were supportive. Maya Chin is my hero. She didn't need validation from anyone. Others were critical. Why would you lie to your family like that? That's cruel. But most were simply amazed. Imagine sitting at Thanksgiving dinner and finding out your sister is a secret billionaire. The car pulled up to my company's building in Midtown Manhattan. The driver opened my door and I stepped out onto the sidewalk. A small crowd had already gathered. Photographers, reporters, people who'd somehow figured out I'd be here. Miss Chin, can we get a photo? Miss Chin, how does it feel to be publicly recognized? Miss Chin, will you reconcile with your family? My head of security, Raphael, met me at the entrance. We've cleared a path to the elevators. Stay close to me. We pushed through the crowd and into the building's lobby. The security team had blocked off the main elevator bank, giving us private access to the executive floors. Sarah's waiting for you in the 14th floor conference room, Raphael said as we rode up. Bloomberg's crew is setting up in conference room A. CNN will be in conference room B. Forbes' video team is in your office. How many people are in the building right now? About 40. Mostly media and your PR team. Some of the executive staff came in when they heard the news. Everyone wants to congratulate you. The elevator doors opened to my floor. The main hallway had been transformed into a media center. Cameras, lights, producers talking on phones, assistants carrying equipment. Sarah rushed over the moment she saw me. Hey, here's the plan. Bloomberg in 10 minutes. That's a 2-0-minute interview focused on the business fundamentals and valuation. Then Forbes video for their expanded online feature. That's 30 minutes. Then CNN at 8. That's a 15-minute segment for their primetime show. After that, Sarah stop. I held up my hand. I need 5 minutes alone. She looked worried. Maya, we're on a tight schedule. 5 minutes. I walked past her into my office and closed the door. The Forbes video crew had set up lighting around my desk, making the whole space look like a television studio, but for now, it was empty. I sat down in my chair and looked out the window at the Manhattan skyline. From here, I could see across the city to where JFK Airport's planes circled in the distance. Somewhere in this view, thousands of shipments were moving through systems powered by my software. Trucks on highways, containers in ports, packages being sorted and routed, all of it coordinated by algorithms I'd written. My phone buzzed. Another text from Emma. Please talk to me. I'm your sister. I love you. I replied. You loved the version of me you thought failed. You felt superior to her. That's not the same as loving me. Emma, that's not fair. Me? Isn't it? You introduced me to your friends as your warehouse worker sister. You made jokes about my life every chance you got. You felt better about yourself because you thought you were more successful than me. Emma, I didn't know. Me? That's the point. You didn't care to know. You never asked about my life, my work, my goals. You just assumed I had failed and you had succeeded and that made you happy. 3 dots appeared showing she was typing. Then they disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, what do I do now? I stared at that message for a long moment. Me. That's not my problem to solve, Emma. A knock on my door. Sarah peeked in. Maya, Bloomberg is ready. I stood up, smoothed my clothes, and took a deep breath. Let's do this. The Bloomberg interview went smoothly. The reporter, Jennifer Martinez, asked intelligent questions about the technology, the market opportunity, and my vision for the company's future. She didn't ask about my family, which I appreciated. The Forbes video interview was more personal. They wanted the human interest angle. The young woman who built a billion-dollar company in secret. I kept my answers professional, but warm. Yes, I'd always been interested in technology. No, I didn't regret leaving Stanford. Yes, I planned to continue running the company myself rather than selling. By the time CNN set up for their interview at 8, I was exhausted, but their correspondent, Michael Chin, dove right in with the question everyone wanted answered. Miss Chin, social media is exploding with interest in your Thanksgiving dinner story. Can you tell us what happened when your family discovered your success? I considered my words carefully. My family and I have had different perspectives on what I've been doing for the past 6 years. Today, those perspectives aligned. Your sister posted on Facebook that she had no idea about your business success. How is that possible? I kept a low profile intentionally. I used holding companies and let my executive team be the public face of Titan Logistics. Most people in my personal life didn't know. But your family? Surely they must have noticed something. They noticed what they wanted to notice. I was happy to let them focus on their own achievements. Michael leaned forward. There's a lot of speculation online that you deliberately deceived your family. Is that accurate? I never lied to anyone. I simply didn't correct their assumptions. That's not deception. That's privacy. Do you plan to reconcile with your family after this? That depends on them. I said, I've always been willing to have an honest relationship. The question is whether they're willing to see me as I actually am rather than as they assumed I was. The interview wrapped at 8:30. Sarah immediately pulled me aside. That was perfect. Honest, but not bitter. Strong, but not arrogant. The public is going to love you. I don't care if the public loves me, I said. I care about running my company. Well, good news on that front. The publicity has already resulted in 3 major retailers reaching out about implementing our logistics software. This story is worth at least $1 billion in free advertising. My phone rang. Mom again. I answered this time. Maya honey, please come back. Everyone's still here. We want to celebrate with you. Mom, I have more interviews tomorrow morning. I'm staying in the city tonight. Tomorrow then come for breakfast. We can all talk properly. I don't think that's a good idea. Maya, we're your family. We love you. You love the idea of having a successful daughter now that you know I'm successful. That's not the same thing. That's not fair. We've always loved you. Mom, when was the last time you asked me about my work, about my life, about anything I was doing? Silence. Exactly. I said you were content to believe I'd failed because it made your other children's achievements look better by comparison. That's not love. That's convenience. Why? I have to go, Mom. I'll call you in a few days. I hung up before she could respond. Sarah was watching me carefully. You okay? I'm fine. You know, you could leverage this situation. The family drama angle is making you even more sympathetic. We could. No, I said firmly. I'm not using my family dysfunction for PR purposes. They okay. She held up her hands. Just know that the option is there. My phone buzzed with a notification. Someone had created a Wikipedia page about me. I scrolled through it, reading a summarized version of my life written by strangers. It was surreal. Another notification. Good Morning America wanted me in their studio at 7 a.m. The Tonight Show wanted me for next week. 60 Minutes was requesting a full profile. Sarah, I can't do all of these. You don't have to. But I recommend GMA tomorrow and maybe The Tonight Show next week. After that, we can be more selective. I nodded. Book them. Already done. You have a car picking you up at 6 a.m. for the GMA appearance. I've reserved a room for you at the Four Seasons tonight so you can rest. Thank you. She squeezed my shoulder. Maya, for what it's worth. What you built is incredible. With or without your family's recognition. Don't let their response diminish what you've accomplished. After Sarah left, I sat alone in my office staring at the city lights. My phone continued to buzz. Congratulations from business associates, interview requests from media outlets, messages from old acquaintances suddenly wanting to reconnect. Nothing from anyone in my family except Emma's increasingly desperate texts. At 10 p.m., I finally left the building. Raphael escorted me to the waiting car and we drove to the Four Seasons. The hotel had given me a suite, and the staff treated me like royalty. Everyone had seen the Forbes article. Everyone knew who I was now. In the privacy of my suite, I finally allowed myself to process the day. 12 hours ago, I'd been setting out dinner rolls in Emma's kitchen. Now, I was the most talked about person in technology. My phone rang one more time. A number I didn't recognize, but with a Connecticut area code. I answered. Waya. It's Dad. Hi Dad. I wanted to apologize for what I said at dinner. For all of it. I waited. I had no idea what you'd built. No idea how hard you'd been working. I'm sorry I didn't see it. You didn't want to see it. I said quietly. It was easier to believe I'd failed. That's not true, isn't it? Tell me honestly, Dad, when you thought I worked in a warehouse, did it make you feel better about Marcus and Emma? Did it make their accomplishments seem more impressive by comparison? The silence stretched long enough to be my answer. I thought so. I said, Maya, you're my daughter. I love you. I know you do, Dad. But love isn't enough when it comes with conditions. You loved me as long as I fit into the role you expected. The moment I didn't, you wrote me off. We didn't write you off. You absolutely did. You introduced me to your colleagues as the family failure. You apologized to relatives for my lack of ambition. You told me you were just glad I was employed. That's not unconditional love, Dad. That's tolerance. I don't know what you want me to say. I don't want you to say anything. I want you to think about why it took a Forbes article for you to respect me. I hung up and turned off my phone. The suite was quiet. Through the window, Manhattan glittered with a million lights. Somewhere in this city, my company was running operations that spanned the globe. Somewhere, Emma was probably still reading articles about me, trying to reconcile the sister she thought she knew with the billionaire I actually was. Somewhere, my parents were explaining to relatives how they'd somehow missed that their daughter had built an empire. And somewhere, a younger version of me was sitting in a dorm room at Stanford, writing code at 2:00 inches the morning, dreaming of exactly this moment. I'd gotten everything I wanted. The company, the success, the validation. What I hadn't expected was how lonely it would feel. But as I climbed into bed that night, I realized something. I'd rather be lonely and respected than surrounded by people who only valued me for being less than I was. The turkey had indeed gone cold, but I wasn't hungry anymore anyway.